bit excited this morning, today, because as I came down here, two of my favorite songs came on the radio. Now, this is going to be a test to see how old I am, okay? Anybody remember Regulate? Warren G, Nate Dogg? All right, we got one person in the room. Oh my goodness. All right, let me try another one. This is my second one. It just came on as I was walking in the building. How about Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana? All right, I got a little more there. So we're getting there. But those songs can pump you up. So I'm a little bit out of my shell today, right? So what we're going to talk about, though, is really, I got to pull my notes. I apologize because I don't have it all memorized. But we're going to talk about strategic planning. And the way we're going to talk about strategic planning is I'm going to talk to you kind of like the way I would talk to a client. A lot of my clients, as they operate, as they go through business, and I focus on medical practices. That's a specialty about which I've done for the last 10 years. Talk to physicians. A lot of them need a lot of strategic planning. Now with that, I think as we go through strategic planning, you can think about, I want you to think about something in your own life, whatever strategic plans you're making currently. Most of you are probably going to pull something in the academic world, right? Something about trying to get out of this place, get a job, get a paycheck. But you can also think about some other things. Think about, some other long-term plans that you have. So what do you think about as you think about strategic plans? Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Goals.
Goals? What else? Is it just an academic exercise?
No.
Is it laborious? Is it boring? Is it someone that's taking up your time, your valuable time? Because we have very little bit of that right now, right? In this day and age, very little free time to think about it. And that's what most people think about. But really, by simple definition, we're assessing the future, right? We're looking out into the future. We're identifying an event to achieve or avoid. I mean, that's critical there, achieving or avoiding an event, developing a plan, and then initiating some action. So when I sit down with my client, I think about, let's look into the future. Let's identify either something we want to prevent or avoid. Now right now, there's a big event in medical practice world. Anybody have any idea? It's an acronym. It just came out July of 15. It's called MACRA. It's probably going to change the face of medicine. Okay? I won't tell you what it stands for, but basically, we're going to start talking about quality care in medicine. Most of my practices are beginning to talk about how are we going to avoid that event, or how are we going to achieve success as we go through that. So, like I said, most of yours are probably going to be school. Some things to achieve, some things to avoid. Start thinking about what that event is for you. And really, to get through that event, I think it's very critical to kind of frame it around the 3 Ds of habit forming. Anybody have any idea about 3 Ds of habit forming? Decision, discipline, and determination. That's school in itself, right? You got to make the decision to go to class, decision to get through school. You really got to have the discipline, right? And then at the end of the day, you got to have the determination to go through. So as you move through those plans, most of you made a strategic plan today. Who woke up thinking about what am I going to do today? Oh, come on, somebody give me a hand, right? Like, that's what I do when I wake up. You thought about where am I going to go? What am I going to eat? When am I going to eat? What class am I going to go to? I'm going to go to the BEC, room 320 at 3:30 and hear some guy talk so I can get some free pizza. So you were all thinking about that as you move through. You know most of you are thinking about that. But every time you plan, every time you think about your day, you're doing some strategic planning. A couple benefits from this, it's focusing on what's important and not necessarily what's urgent if you're really thinking about strategic planning. Important and not necessarily what necessarily is urgent. We live in a world of urgent fire, putting out the fire, and we never think a lot of times about what's important. So as I tell my clients, we got to think about what's important, not what's urgent. In medical practice work, there's a lot of urgent issues that go on every single day. See patients, personnel, financial issues, manager issues, all those things I say, as we look into strategic planning, we got to think about really what's important down the road, not necessarily what's here right now. The other big one, your agenda, and not what someone else has written for you. Like I said, everybody wants a little piece of your pie, right? Everybody wants a little bit of your time. Those professors want your time in class, and those professors want your time in homework. and your mom wants you to help you come move out of her house, and your daughter, which I have 3 of, by the way, wants you to be at everything and play Mario Kart at night with them, and which is all great and grand, but at the end of the day, from wake up to wake in, somebody is trying to get on your time. If you don't think about strategic planning, you're not going to move forward. One of my favorite things to talk about here is we talked about decision making and the ways we begin to jump into strategic planning, but I don't necessarily believe in luck. Now, let me tell you a quick story. I did hit a hole-in-one with Nick Saban. That was pure luck, y'all, okay? Pure luck. I'm like a 42 handicap. I mean, it's off the chart. That's pure luck. But it's really when opportunity meets hard work. You probably heard that. But I truly believe that whenever, if you're putting the hard work in, eventually the opportunity is going to hit. And a lot of people call that luck, but it's when that opportunity meets hard work. So, why do we strategically plan? To achieve those outcomes, right? Or to avoid the things that we want to avoid. No one else is going to do it for you. Whatever you're thinking of right now that's your strategic plan that you need to do, most likely no one's going to do it for you. Now, you're going to have some people that are going to help you, but they're not going to do it for you. It shows your ability to manage time. Like I said, everybody wants your time. I have a lot of people that work for me, 20, 25 people. The best of some of my best people are not necessarily my smartest people. Sometimes it's the best of those who can manage time. Because everybody, from a client perspective, when you're in public accounting, everybody wants your time. All day, every day, you got clients calling, especially with physicians, because physicians work from 8 to 5. So any idea when a physician would call me? 6:30 a.m., 6:30 p.m., they work on Sunday mornings, Sunday nights. I'm not going to always respond to those, but they always want your time. So some of the best people that work in the field of public accounting are those with the ability to manage time. It shows here through strategic planning you can manage time. It shows vision. A lot of people with vision. Don't think about what's here, right now. Most of you are probably millennials. I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm a millennial too. I'm barely a millennial, okay? But I'm a millennial too, so I understand of what's here, what's now, I want it now. We were kind of raised that way, right? This little thing right here, and Malik's got even more fancier than me. You know, I get everything I want right here, right now. I can get anything I want to eat probably the next 10 minutes. I can get groceries at my front door through Shipt, right? I mean, I can get anything I really want at any given time in this day and age. So we have to kind of back up and focus on strategic planning. Showing the ability to strategically plan for yourself and events builds your resume, enhances your value, and ultimately secures your future. Tell that to my practices. You know, we got a lot of things changing, but it's just true for you guys. They're building a resume. They're trying to enhance their value. They're trying to secure their future as a medical practice. We're trying to do the same thing here in school. We're trying to build your resume, hopefully. It's probably, you know, good thing to put NAVA on your resume. You're trying to enhance your value and necessarily secure your future. So how do we actually do it? So let's get into the meat of some of the things. And so there's a lot of different things we can look at when we're strategically planning. So we're going to kind of look at a wide brushstroke here of how you actually do it. So first, identifying really what that strategic plan is going to be. I put out the issue of looking at, let's look at a speedboat, okay? Speedboat is out in the middle of the lake, and it's got about 8 or 9 different ropes attached to it. And all those ropes are holding back the speedboat. You are the speedboat. Whatever you want to achieve is the speedboat. But there are 8 or 9 things that are holding you back. You need to identify some of those issues. First, identifying the issues that are holding you back. Some of the ropes are pulled tight. Some of the ropes are really, really loose. And we're going to talk about how to accomplish each of those. But first, identifying what are those things, what are those areas that you need to move forward and get the speedboat moving forward. Through that, you're going to identify really 3 things. What's certain, what's probable, and what's possible. What's certain, what's probable, and what's possible. All right, let's take it back to the academic setting. What's probably certain right now for you is that you're going to finish this semester and be done. What's probable for you as you look at your academic exercise is that you're probably going to graduate. And then what's possible, hopefully, is that you're going to get the job that you want, that you're passionate about. So there's 3 different areas that we're looking at there. All 3 of those have different timing. You're going to finish school finish this semester in the next 3 months. You might finish your school in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, wherever you are in school. And then the later event of actually graduation and job searching is farther down the road from there. So as you go through that, you gotta figure out what are also the impacts of each of those. So like I said, identifying your event, the timing of those events, and then the impact. So what are the impacts as you strategically plan yourself? Very bad, bad, very good, and good. And let's just make it easier. You know, if you don't finish this semester, that's probably very bad. If you don't graduate, that's pretty bad too. But I mean, we're being relative here, right? There's other problems that could happen, but not very good either. If you don't get a job, at least you graduated, you finish your semester, you have that, but you didn't get the job that you necessarily wanted right now and you're passionate about. That means that maybe a couple of years from now, your strategic plan is beginning to change because you're finished what you're doing right now. You strategically plan through getting through school. You strategically plan through graduating. You didn't get the job you want, so then your strategic plans go to, how do I get what I want? And the whole process starts over because life is strategic planning. And then you start thinking about, how do I get that next job? Do I build my resume of where I currently am? Do I change my skill set? Do I get into something else? Do I take a lower paying job? These are all considerations as we strategically plan. A lot of my practices, they have a lot of issues, but one of the other issues are hiring managers. A manager is a key, important piece to a physician practice because they're small and they don't move, you know, they don't have a CFO and a CEO and a HR personnel. That's the one person who holds all the magic. They do all those roles with all those hats. And so a lot of times if they're strategic planning, let's say they're thinking about hiring a manager, that might be an issue that we would sit down together and let's talk about it. You know, same steps here, y'all. What's certain? Is it certain you're gonna fire the one that you have right now? Is it probable that you might be, or is it possible? We're gonna move through that story. What's the timing? Are we gonna do it in 1 month, 3 months? Are we gonna do it in a year from now? What's the timing of us firing or hiring a manager? And then what's the impact? All right, so we fired the one we have right now. You know, the impact, if it's not gonna be a very big impact, that's okay. That's probably a good thing. It's probably why we need to fire them. But it might change some of the things. So we'll strategically plan through an issue, same way you would strategically plan through. You know, after you've assessed what your issues are, and you're still on the speedboat story, I would tell you pick one that you can win really easily. This is kind of I don't know if it's a new academic thing or not, but I feel like it's new. Pick something you can win now. Pick the one that's easy for you to win. I think there's a story of a military sergeant that gives a speech, and he talks about if you're gonna do one thing one day, one thing every single day, make your bed. Who makes their bed in here? I don't. Who makes their bed? There you go, make your bed. Why would you wanna make your bed every single day? Because it's the first thing you do when you wake up and you've accomplished the task. About which then inspires you to, it sounds crazy. You make your beds tonight, I promise you, and tomorrow. Make your bed tomorrow and see how your day goes because you have accomplished a task, which leads you therefore to accomplish another task, and another task, and another task. A lot of academic exercises around accomplishing something easy when you do it. Same thing with strategic planning. If you haven't strategic planned, tell my practices, you haven't thought about the future because you're putting the fires out where you are right now, let's find a real easy one, whatever it may be. Let's go change out the light bulbs in the waiting room. You know, it's, I mean, really stupid stuff, but it gets us to move to the next thing that we need to solve. So pick the one you can win easily. Make a list of all those issues still with speedboat, and then pick the one you can make easily. And then break it into small pieces. Another story about how you get through the Sahara Desert. You know how they cross the Sahara Desert? They put barrels of oil every 5 kilometers so that you can follow yourself across the desert. Because think about the landscape. Everything looks the same, left, right, straight, forward. And as they cross, they follow the barrels, 5 kilometers at a time. It's 500 kilometers long, so it's 100 barrels. And the story here is that you just gotta get to the next barrel. You just gotta get to the next barrel. So as you strategically plan, break your project into small pieces. Just get to the next barrel. And therefore your plan moves a little bit easier. Make it easy, break it into small pieces. There's nothing that you can't accomplish through that method. Well, maybe something, but there's a lot of things you can not accomplish by going through that method. So how do you actually move that? Now we've got our pieces, we've got our plan, and then we're gonna actually move it into some actual effort. Now this may be novel, and we're gonna go down a rabbit trail real quick. I don't know how I am on time, but we're gonna go down it anyway. Get input and listen. Who thinks they're a good listener? Yeah, we're all bad listeners, but congratulations. In this day and age, we're really bad listeners. And we just don't listen to what people have to say because we are built a little bit in millennial generation on a me generation. It's sometimes a stereotype. It's all about me. You know, we came from the trophy generation. Everybody gets a trophy, but I'm going to get one too. And you can do it, son. It's all about you. It's your agenda. Don't worry about other people. And we kind of live a little bit in that. So, and here's some facts around it. We only hear about listen to about 25% of what we hear. That means most of you have only heard about 3 minutes of me speaking today. 25% of what we hear. We speak at 150 words per minute, but we hear at 1,000 words per minute. So we hear six times, is that my math? A little over 6 times more than we hear the person speaking. So as somebody's talking to you, you've already heard so much that you have this filler time of 850 words, and your mind is everywhere. And this ambient sounds of what's going on are all there. So you can begin to practice on listening better, and there's a bunch of ways you can do this. You can actually probably Google how to listen better exercises. One of them is just by not talking in complete silence for 3 minutes a day. Has anybody had 3 minutes of complete silence today? Beautiful, beautiful. Most of us don't. Because your day looked like mine. I woke up, the alarm clock was blaring in my ear. My kids are downstairs. Dad, can you please brush my hair? Yes, I can brush your hair. Straight to the coffee maker, by which made a lot of noise. And then I took my kids and we turned the radio and I took them off and dropped them off at school. By which then I turned my radio and then I went to work, which when people were sitting in my office, and I never talked to anybody all day long. I didn't listen at all. So find 3 minutes to just absolutely sit there and do nothing. All right, now this is going to be real awkward. I want you to turn to the person closest to you. Some of you may not have it, because normally it's not in this setting. And I don't want you to say a word to that person. I want you to just stare at them for 20 seconds. Stare at them. Find somebody. No, you gotta find somebody. Stare at them. Stare. Oh. And that's 20 seconds. And that's a long time. Was it a long time? Because we're not used to that. We're not actually used to just sitting there and not engaging in conversation, which is a vital part of actually listening. You know, little quiz here. Johnny's mother has 3 daughters, nickel, dime, and give me something. Quarter. Johnny's mother has 3 daughters, nickel, dime, and Johnny's mom has 3 daughters, nickel, dime, and Steve? No? Johnny. Johnny's mom has, we didn't listen. The answer's in there. That's called filtering. Because nickel and dime should be associated with a quarter, right? Or a penny, or I don't know where Steve came from. But we're not listening. We filter to what we want to hear. It may have been that you guys were hearing 1,000 words and I was talking at 150. I don't know. Let me give you another one. 2 moose are sitting on a log talking about baseball. The little moose is the big moose's son, but the big moose is not the little moose's father. How is this possible? Somebody said something?
It's the little moose's mother.
I need to hear that again.
Is that again?
It's the little moose's mother.
Little moose's mother. That's the answer. But we filter. That's called judgment, is actually what that's called. We have judgmental listening. Why would a mom and a son of moose be sitting over there talking about baseball? A mom would never talk to their dad about baseball. There's another one that goes around that I tell my doctors, which is basically the same story. Somebody laying on the gurney, and the doctor shows up, and it's the same story there, but it's the mom. Because we used to not think of women as physicians. That's kind of changed a little bit now, but we judgment and we filter into our listening every day. All right, I'm going to get off the side story of listening, but y'all get the point that you don't listen very well. And part of strategic planning is that you've actually got to listen to what other people say inside of your strategic plan. You've got to get input. You've got to listen. You've got to deal with problems immediately. As you move through a strategic plan, you've got to deal with them immediately. You know, we've heard eating the big frog first, right? After you made your bed, solve the next biggest problem of the day, go ahead and just solve it, because they'll work on you all day long. Same thing in strategic planning. As we move through, you've got to solve those problems immediately, whatever that problem may be. And as you go through school, you're gonna have those problems. As a medical practice goes through a different strategic plan, we're gonna have problems that are gonna arise and we're gonna have to deal with them. You know, assign decisions to the necessary party is an important part of strategic planning, making sure that the right party is involved. Like I said, you can't do everything all by yourself. So you've got to be able to delegate some of those things. Struggling a little bit to figure out what that looks like in academics, but it could be maybe your parents are paying your student loan, make sure they're paying your student tuition, making sure they do that. Making sure that your group members in a group setting are actually doing what they're supposed to do. You know, in life and these other things, we usually break out in a physicians group and we all delegate. If we're gonna hire a manager, all right, you're gonna go find the manager, you're gonna go do the recruiting, you're gonna interview the manager, and then two of y'all are gonna actually make the decision on that, actually, if you think you should hire them. So 1, 2, 3. Because if you gotta do all three, you're never gonna get anything done. And there's gonna be no one there to ever hold you accountable. So assigning to the necessary party and then following through and holding people accountable for what they're actually doing. So think about your own strategic plan. It might be yourself you're holding accountable. But in that situation, we'll have a leader that's moving through the strategic plan and making sure that you're interviewing and that you're talking and hiring, you're finding, you're interviewing, that you're actually going through. Somebody's got to be accountable for it. And then lastly, on this piece, decide if you need an outside facilitator. So a lot of work I do with physicians is based around their compensation. And you get real messy and real dirty. So if a group was going to decide their compensation, their own compensation, how well do y'all think that goes? I'm gonna take $10 out of my pocket and I'm gonna put it in your pocket. Yeah, right, like that ever happens. So a lot of it's, I facilitate that conversation as to, here's what's fair, here's what's equitable. You might need that in your own strategic planning. You do need it in academics. You need somebody. You need great professors. You need great mentors. You need great colleagues as students so that you can all go through that strategic plan for yourself. And then really lastly, the piece of finishing out strategic planning, documenting all the success. Actually writing, there's this thing called a pencil and a pen and a piece of paper, all right? And actually writing it down and actually documenting what you've actually done. You know, delivering it to yourself in small bites as you move through, documenting your successes. As you move through the Sahara Desert, documenting, how do we go from here to here? A couple of reasons for this. One is that it makes you remember where you came from. Secondly, next time you decide to have a strategic plan, you remember what you did. It inspires you to move on to your next strategic plan because you're going to have 8 ropes or 9 ropes or 10 ropes. Remember, they're holding back your speedboat. If you can't document how you got the first rope off and it took you a year or 6 months or 3 months, whatever you chose, you're going to have a hard time getting to your next one, getting to that next strategic plan. As a reminder, as a recap, remember, here's what strategic planning is: anticipating future events. Take the time, listen to yourself, to others, anticipating future, what's here. You know, effectively positioning yourself for those events as you move through so that it secures your future and enhances your value. It's being proactive rather than reactive. It starts now with strategic planning, and it's gonna be there forever. It's never gonna go away. Daily process. So the better you are at now at strategic planning, the more effective you're going to be, the more you're going to enhance your value, whatever area you go into, and the more your value, whatever that value is. That value is a bigger job with a bigger paycheck. If that value is the bigger job with the more passion of what you really want to do. If that value is more flexibility. We all have different ways we value certain things. I call it, the way I teach my employees, I call it dessert. What is your dessert? I like, you know, banana cream pie. You might like pecan pie. You might want flexibility in work. You might want a bigger paycheck. You might want to be on the bigger projects. You might want to travel to Huntsville. You might not want to travel to Huntsville. What do you want to do? If you strategically plan for yourself and you've got value, you do what you want to do. And that's strategic planning. That's all I got.